had never seen. That was cool.
So we've got a forum. Is the city manager from?
He was here. You go check on it.
I haven't called it to order yet.
Yeah, I haven't started.
Let's go.
8 people there, 8 groups. That's pretty good. Some people looking, some people, but there's been 2 houses over on Surratt that have sold for $7 million. It's quiet in there though.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. The City of Greenfield, Arroyo Seco Groundwater Sustainability Agency. We'll start out with roll call.
Chair Thorpe,
Here.
Vice Chair Griva, Board Member Rodriguez,
Here.
Board Member Wood,
Here.
Board Member White.
Here.
We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, public comments from the audience regarding items not on the agenda. This portion of the agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the GSA on any items not on the closed session, consent calendar, public hearing, and agency business. Under state regulations, no action can be taken on non-agenda items, including issues raised under this agenda item. Members of the public should be aware of this when addressing the GSA regarding items not specifically referenced on this agenda. Is there any public comments for items not on the agenda?
There's no hands raised.
Okay. Next item is consent calendar. All matters listed in the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved by one action of the agency unless a request for removal or discussion or explanation is received prior to the time agency votes on this motion to adopt. There's one item, and that is the adoption of the minutes of the July 22nd meeting. We have a motion to adopt the minutes.
I'll move to adopt. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Suppose motion carried. Next item would be receive Arroyo Seco Groundwater Sustainability Agency General Manager status.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. I've got 2 things for you this afternoon. First thing, I wanted to make sure you're aware of is the process that's ongoing now in defining those groundwater dependent ecosystems. We looked at a lot of data and a lot of process last year and kind of trying to define how we were going to define groundwater dependent ecosystems. We used a model up in the north, subcontracted with the Central Coast Wetlands Group to do the actual work. Both Gus and I served on the committee that helped kind of steer that process. But now in this year, as we start getting more into looking at implementation throughout the rest of the Salinas Valley subbasins, is that we're replicating, at least taking that process and replicating in each of the various subbasins along corridors or areas that would meet the definition for being a wetland or a possibly a groundwater dependent ecosystem. And, you know, we use aerial photography and, you know, USGS maps, and we know where the rivers are, that kind of thing, to be able to define them. And then we go out and we do some survey work. Well, the survey work is ongoing. In fact, just recently I took the survey team out to the edge of the city's property, and they went out over to the Salinas River to assess a couple sites along the Salinas River. The Salinas River in and of itself is a little bit more complicated than the Arroyo Seco because of the fact that we have reservoir releases. And over the years, that ecosystem has become dependent on those releases. And this last real significant drought, we saw some large cottonwood die off and some other changes because we didn't have water in the reservoirs to release. Or the agency chose not to release. So those are pretty well defined, easy to access, more or less. And they're ongoing. I know they've done some work down in King City. And as they looked at the Arroyo Seco, we identified a couple of spots up in the watershed we wanted to at least look at. And then some locations closer to the confluence of the Arroyo Seco and the Salinas River, where the topography starts to flatten out, and you've got, you know, more of a standing groundwater. You've got a little bit different riparian corridors, they get closer together. So, you know, I know that those are areas that they wanted to survey as well and get, you know, a site assessment so that we can come back every few years and look at how things are progressing or not. I know that the Coastal Wetlands Group worked with Tim Fromm and trying to get into the Arroyo Seco, get some access. But I wanted to make you aware of, in case you see a bunch of folks wandering around the river and looking at shrubbery and such, that's what they're doing. And long-term, the idea is to get this baseline assessment and to look at whether or not there's any kind of impact from using groundwater on those groundwater dependent ecosystems. First, I got to go out and say, okay, yeah, this is one. You know, that we got groundwater that's within 30 feet of the surface and other criteria that we established. And we'll do that mostly on the desktop. And then they'll continue to use aerial photography every once in a while, going out to do these things called CRAM assessments that look at the actual vegetation and other criteria, with the long-term idea is to make sure that we take care of those groundwater dependent ecosystems and don't allow overpumping to impact them. So no, that's ongoing. It's going to be a long process, but that's an area that is in addition to, you know, the 6 criteria that we need to meet to stay ahead of for our groundwater sustainability. And given that that is a very specific thing, there may be management actions associated with trying to preserve those groundwater dependent ecosystems. But that, you know, first step in the process is to say, yeah, that's one. This is what it looks like today. Does it look this way 5 years from now, or is it getting worse? And then we'll go from there. But it is enough of a hook as a regulatory body that may engender additional actions in the future. We just don't know. So I'll keep you informed, keep this kind of stuff. I mean, but it's important that you're aware of those elements that are being looked at and implemented. Actually, I do have a third thing. I did fill out the application. I will be your representative on the Salinas Valley Basin GSA's advisory committee. Ann was good enough to get the minutes together and I shot it. So they have a written record. I mean, it wasn't, I guess the recording wasn't enough. They wanted something in writing in addition to my application. So that's done. So any questions on those 2 items? All right, the third item is about some well drilling that has been going on off of is it Thorn Road? I guess it is Thorn. Road.
Seco.
Off the Rosecco.
Yeah.
Rosecco Road. And recall that when we developed the GSP for the forebay, we don't have a lot of data. We don't have a lot of shallow wells right in the Arroyo Seco River channel. So it's an area that we could do with additional information. How deep is the alluvium? What's the transmissivity? I mean, to actually have wells drilled in that shallow alluvium would be very helpful in characterizing how the river responds to surface water. So we said, yeah, I think a couple of wells make sense. One of them needed to be kind of at the very tail end of our management area, just as it's starting to go up into kind of the rockier portions of the Arroyo Seco watershed. And I got a phone call from Vice Chair Grievous saying, hey, do you know about these guys that are drilling a well off the side of the road, in the road right away? And I said, no, that's news to me. So I did reach out to the Slaves Valley Basin GSA. And, before I did that, Vice Chair Grieve and I did talk about a couple of additional things. Number one, the well drilling location is pretty far away from the Arroyo Seco River, hundreds of feet. And it's up above
Much
it.
higher.
It's not in the river bottom, or nor is it really on the banks. There's concern about really, is it going to be able to provide us information about how the river alluvium responds? Second item, Mr. Grieva also mentioned that based on his experience in that area, there's a lot of clay there. And so there's not much in the way of alluvium. So again, that's not what you'd anticipate, the bottom of a riverbed. And the third thing that he mentioned was that this is likely is very close to, if not right on top of, the old landfill that used to be out there. So given that kind of group of information, I did call the Slaves Valley Basin GSA, and I did speak to them about how the site was selected. And evidently, whoever they reached out to didn't give them access. And so they just decided, without talking to me or Gus or anyone else on our team about where to site the well, to drill it from this location in the road right away, where they would have access. I mean, I get that, but I don't get them not spending a little bit more time and finding the right side. So I did express our concern about the fact that there's going to be a lot of clay. You're a long ways away from the river. We're not even sure, like the depth that we were talking about drilling those wells were around 200 feet, not very deep wells. And whether or not you're even going to get into the alluvium from where you're located. And there's concern about the quality of the water, given the fact that it may be impacted by an old landfill. So I expressed all these concerns, and I guess I got a bit of a sorry we didn't reach out, but I think the path forward, and they did commit, they being the Slaves Valley Basin GSA, did commit sending me the well logs when they're complete. I'll send them to Gus, and I'll have him review them, and I'll have him look at our GSP actions and look at what that well data, the well logs tell us, and give us a summary report. And then we'll review that as a board, and you can tell me, how you want to proceed, but it'll probably take us a month or so to get that together. That's my recommended path forward. I am concerned, and I think it's appropriate for us to go on record, and it will give me an additional opportunity to say, hey, we really are here as your sister organization to help. Had you reached out to me, I could have called any number of the property owners and got likely authority to go in and drill a well. So we'll have some follow-up, but I wanted to bring you that piece of information. I apologize, I did get, a text message from Mr. Greenwood with a, with a picture, but I couldn't transfer it to my account, so I failed on my technology today.
A picture of the well?
Yeah, a picture of the well drilling rig in the side of the road.
Okay, yeah, it's already gone. They've completed it.
So, I don't know all of the, facts, or I really can't make any evaluation other than to say if there could have been more coordination between our two organizations. And I hope it's not an opportunity lost. So I'd say stand by and we'll get, a review and an analysis from Mr. Yates, and that will help us.
Yeah, the location they drilled is probably close to 200 feet above
Yeah.
the actual river
Yeah.
in elevation.
The dump was out there.
What's that?
I said the dump was out there, right? So it
Well,
had
they
to, couldn't be the
drilled right
same.
at the entrance to the old dump. They got
That's
the
even
gates there.
higher.
That's
Right.
where they drilled, was right next to the road. The entrance to the old dump.
I was gonna say, if it was close enough, I have a baby blanket that was thrown away. Just in case, just in case anybody finds it out there.
You still want it?
Yeah. But next to Arroyo Seco Road?
Right off of Rosaico Road. 20 feet off the road.
Yeah. Set the rig up in the shoulder and drilled up though. It's water down the river at this point, but I think really the key piece of this will be making sure that we get better cooperation in the future. I mean, that shouldn't have happened. I'm surprised.
Curtis, it sounds like, we've been trying to set this, this relationship, this communication between the two agencies, so something like this wouldn't happen? Is there something that?
Well, it's one of the things we haven't been able to connect on is our coordination committee, because we do have, a group of two of you. One of them's missing, one's here, that meets with them on a regular basis, but we haven't had anything controversial to talk about. And it's usually the controversy that spurs action, unfortunately. But this is maybe a good reason to have regular sit downs and talk. I mean, surely we have been working pretty well together. But, things have fallen through the cracks. This is clearly one of them. It's one of them that could have been avoided.
Yeah, it definitely could have been avoided. There's better spots. I said there's better spots. It could
Oh,
have
yeah.
been avoided, yeah.
Yeah.
That was communication.
Much better spots. Just as a contrast, right? The Central Coast Wetlands Group that's doing the groundwater dependent ecosystems called me and said, hey, can you help me get access to your area, or who do I talk to? And we connected up with Tim Fromm. Tim's got much better, he's a known entity and able to get access along the Arroyo Seco River. I got him access to the Salinas River from what called to Mr. Wood. Point being, somebody called and asked, and we had an opportunity to weigh in. Successful operation? Don't know yet.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
No.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm sorry. I was,
Didn't mean to interrupt you, Curtis.
no, this is one of those, I thought about not having a meeting, but because of this well issue, I thought it was the appropriate thing to do. Is to bring it to you and let you know that we're aware of it and we're working on it.
Okay, is there any public comments? See any? Okay, so we'll receive and file the general manager's status report, and being no more business, we will adjourn the meeting.
Very good.